Hillary, your best and only option. It is not exactly an inspiring campaign slogan, but it may be the best description of Clinton's 2016 bid. While our new NBC Marist poll has Clinton dominating the Democratic race in both Iowa and New Hampshire, it also finds Clinton's favorability down considerably. 19 points underwater in Iowa, Clinton is found more unlikable than anyone but Trump. Up in New Hampshire, it is a similar story, with Clinton's favorability at -20. Granted, it is net negatives all around in our poll, with the notable exception of Bernie Sanders. Sanders was asked yesterday whether those feeling the burn are a similar strain of the fed-up folks backing Donald Trump.
Do you buy that comparison?
No, I don't. I think the chord that we are touching all over this country is that people are profoundly disgusted with an economics that make the richest people richer and everybody else poorer. They are profoundly angered and disturbed by a political campaign system that allows billionaires to buy elections because of this disastrous campaign finance system called Citizens United.
Governor Dean, is it fair to compare the Sanders momentum with Trump's lead? Is that just a reaction to the prospect of a Bush-Clinton election?
I don't really think it is fair. Donald Trump is just a bombastic person who says whatever comes into his head. Bernie actually has a cogent economic point of view that I think people share, some on the right, not just the left. But I really don't think you get. First of all, Bernie Sanders does not attack others personally, which Trump specializes in. So I think it's a very, very different phenomenon.
Yeah, Sam, to that end, do you think there's been too much equivocating in terms of Trump supporters on the far right fringe and Bernie Sanders supporters on the left fringe?
I agree with the governor. I don't really see the parallel, in part because, you know, Bernie Sanders' top advisor, Tad Devine, told me a while back that he's never run a negative campaign ad in his career. He doesn't go after other people. He talks about his issues, he sticks to his issues, and if people like it, they go with him. And it just so happens that he's tapped into something that's really resonant on the Democratic liberal side of the ledger right now. I think the comparison comes in the sense that on each party, people are kind of revolting at the notion of dynastic politics. You see it with Jeb and you see it with Hillary Clinton too. People are really not a lot enthused about the idea of having another Clinton or another Bush, and so they're surveying their options. What's odd here is that the Democrats are kind of acting like Republicans in these polls. Their heart's with Bernie, but they have a pragmatism streak here saying, well, we want someone who we think can actually win, and so they're sticking with Hillary even though she has these low favorability ratings. That's usually something you see on the Republican side and not the Democratic one.
I sort of loathe myself for even bringing this up, Jess, but I'll do it anyway because I'm self-loathing. A piece in Politico argues that Clinton is suffering from the authenticity trap. Hillary's plight may offer a lesson in the perils of being too constrained. Trump shows what can happen when a candidate isn't constrained enough. Is there such a thing as real anymore?
Yeah, I want to push back on a couple of those points. I don't think that Democrats' hearts are really with Bernie, and if we thought that he could win, then we would all be really happy to go out and vote for him. I think that there is a reason why you keep seeing in poll after poll that Hillary understands problems that matter to American families, that they think she has the best track record of getting things done. She's running a holistic campaign that is addressing everything from criminal justice and Black Lives Matter to immigration. Today she's got a plan for climate change. I think the biggest difference between Trump and Sanders is that Democrats want Bernie Sanders in the race. Talking about economic populism is fantastic. That is good for us. It is good for the party. It's good for the country. It's good for Hillary Clinton. But that's not all. That's not the only issue that progressives are really excited about right now and know to be a really serious issue facing the country. I think that Hillary is doing a fantastic job of hitting a full range of those issues and showing what an incredible contrast there is between Democrats and Republicans. So yes, the stakes are high, and yes, we think that she is a better general election candidate, but that is definitely not the only reason why she continues to lead.
And yet, Governor Dean, there's still skepticism. As much as she's done exactly what Jess said, which is come out very strong on progressive issues, today Clinton was making a big push on climate change, and she refused to take a position on the Keystone Pipeline. So I guess I wonder how much that illustrates the sort of limits in the course that she's charting towards the base.
No, I think that Hillary Clinton is by far the most qualified person on either side to be president of the United States, and I think she will be president of the United States. She's underwater right now because she's gotten a broadside from mainstream media and I'm not a big believer that the media hates Hillary Clinton, but they sure have been incredibly sloppy. The New York Times has written two stories in 3 months.
You don't think it has anything to do with Hillary Clinton hating the mainstream media?
Oh, I think Hillary Clinton doesn't like the mainstream media. Would you like them if they just
I don't know.
put
Am
on
I
the
the
front page of
mainstream
the biggest
media?
paper?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The New York Times has done a really crappy job with these two stories about the finance of the Clinton Foundation. They really virtually have made stuff up. There was no criminal investigation in the Justice Department. There was no referral for classified information that she leaked. In fact, it's well known that those things were not labeled as classified information. So she now has to put up with this barrage from mainstream media. She'll get through it. She got through with the Clinton financial stuff in the foundation when it turned out to be not true. She'll get through this, and she'll get through Benghazi, which I think will actually help her because it confirms the Republicans are crazy.
Let me just go back to the original point, though, about
quickly?
Keystone, right? If Hillary Clinton is making a point about progressive politics and progressive positions on the environment, does it matter that she didn't take a position on Keystone today?
It doesn't, and I'll tell you why. It's part of being president. Here's the problem with Keystone, regardless of what you think about it in terms of the environment. Keystone is a huge foreign policy issue. Our closest ally is Canada. They have put all their marbles on getting Keystone. Hillary Clinton was the former Secretary of State. She knows this is a bigger issue than simply the environment, and that's why I suspect she's not taking a position. It makes sense. It makes her look presidential, even though it frustrates the hell out of people who are opposed to the Keystone Pipeline.
Sam, do you think it makes her look presidential?
If you have that lens, yes, it does, I guess, but it also can make her look incredibly calculating, too. And there's a constant theme throughout her career that critics have of her, which is that she waits to see which way the wind is blowing and then decides her positions. Now, is that fair or not? I don't know. Just to go back to the mainstream media thing, though, because it's important to point this out. The New York Times, they did have errors in their story. They were corrected. I'm assuming that they would have probably liked them corrected earlier than not. But the fact remains that all of this would have been completely irrelevant had Hillary Clinton not set up a completely private email server, had she not done all her business as Secretary of State on her private email. Those are two things that were the basis for all of the subsequent reporting. Now, the reporting might be erroneous, could have factual inaccuracies, but she made her own bed with this, and that explains a lot of why voters have distrust about her. They don't view her as being a, up-and-up operator on this stuff, and I think that's what's hurting her in the polls.
I disagree, Sam. With all due respect, and I respect you enormously, one of the reporters that I do, I think this is a media-concocted story because I think the media is deeply offended about the emails, and I don't think the average American is because they do this kind of stuff too.
Whether or not it's a media-concocted story, it's a story of her creation.
I work in the media too, and I find it incredibly tedious that all people ever want to talk about on both the right and the left is that the media is the problem.
Well, I think that Hillary Clinton has been in public office or public life for some 30 years, and we have seen some incredibly unfair attacks on her, wholly without substance. I don't believe that that's the media's fault. I believe that most times, it's the Republican Party's fault that has been going. She made her own
private email system.
Just because she had a private email system doesn't mean that the New York Times gets to say that there are criminal investigations into her when there are not.
But it does allow them to report on the Inspector General at the State Department investigating the former Secretary of State's email.
They're not investigating. What they're investigating is classified material, which was sent to her, which was not labeled classified.
Absolutely.
According to Hillary Clinton.
According to the Inspector General, they're looking at FOIA requests, and now that we have to release the emails, and if they had reported on a security guidance being requested for how the Clinton emails were being released as per the State Department, that would not have been the kind of media story that we all have to talk about.
Do you really think, though? I mean, Sam, answer me this sort of philosophical question, since I'm in a self-loathing philosophical mood today. If there was a Republican candidate who had a trustworthiness issue, and there was the same coverage of this person in the way that there is Hillary Clinton, do you think there would be as much outcry on the left?
Yes. Absolutely. For instance, we know this. There was a private email use in the Bush White House Karl Rove, I believe, was sending private emails, or some other operators in the Bush administration were using private accounts, and it was a massive story back in 2004, 2005. I don't have all the details in front of me, but I remember it vividly. This was something that the left was deeply, deeply offended by, and they wanted investigations. I'm pretty sure they launched House investigations to this matter. And so, yeah, I don't think there's, I mean, there's a little bit of inconsistency here in terms of the outrage, but again, the New York Times story had its faults. No one is saying that that story was solid. It had serious corrections appended to it.
It was completely
But none of this
wrong.
would have happened. None of this, again, yeah, but none of this would have happened had she not used her private email system. This is the
So
whole
what?
nexus of
So
the
she
story.
used her private email. So what? So what?
That is the point, though, that she is the creator of this problem. That's not a so what. We act like she's some sort of bystander
She
here.
did not break the law. She didn't do anything that was illegal. She didn't send out classified information. She may have gotten some that was unlabeled. The problem here is the media is deeply offended by this. Come on.
The lamestream media and the New York
The media
Times.
loves to play. The media
That's
loves to
where
be
we're
a
at.
player, but they sure
Here we
have a thin
are.
skin when people go after them.
End of July 2015. It's the mainstream media's fault, and the New York Times has an agenda. What channel are we watching? Howard Dean, thank you.
I think it's incompetence, not an agenda.
Jess and Sam, hang with me. When we come back, police pepper spray a crowd after a Black Lives Matter conference in Cleveland. More on that coming up next.